Namaste, loves. I'm Brittany Shanae. And so I just wanted to talk real quick about divorcing your excuses. I just recently posted an entry on my blog about how to let go of your excuses. And so the best way to kind of address that is to get into what keeps you from holding on to your excuses in the first place. So taking a look at that, I know, at least for me personally, and what I've witnessed from people that I know, is that sometimes the excuse seems more comfortable. It's sort of an out from being able to deal with the responsibility of what it would take in order to actually achieve something, achieving your goal. The thing about reaching your goals is that it's a journey and there are obstacles. And a lot of times, having to face some things about yourself that you don't want to deal with. Maybe you're afraid of success. Maybe you are afraid of failing. And in order to kind of avoid the pain of dealing with either one or the uncertainty, because a lot of it is not so much what we know is truth, but some of it is the unknown of what am I going to have to deal with? What am I going to put myself through if I decide that I want to be successful or if I decide that I just want to try? Um, and so, first thing you have to do is sort of acknowledge that that is an issue for you. And then it makes it a little bit easier for you to go, okay, now that I know that I'm getting in my own way, it's time to divorce the excuses. Okay. Another reason why people kind of hold on to excuses is because of programming. A lot of people just don't realize that they are making excuses. It just comes so natural to them. And especially if we grow up in an environment where people made excuses for us, they excuse why they abandoned us, or excuse why they hurt us, excused us for whatever the case may be, that, it's easy for us to go, oh, well, this person did that, so why do I need to do that? Or this person did this to me, so why do I need to be forgiving? Or whatever the case may be. And it doesn't just have to do with, success, whether it's monetary or having to do with fame or career. We tend to think of, we make excuses as it relates to our career goals and to our financial aspirations. But sometimes it's just about forgiveness. Sometimes it's just about being nice to people. Sometimes it's just about getting up in the morning and washing your ass and acting like you give a damn. And we have excuses as to why we should treat ourselves. Hashtag treat yourself. That can be such a burden to feel like, well, I'm just going to treat myself because I don't feel like not treating myself, because not treating myself is me actually taking care of myself, actually managing my time, actually cleaning my house, or actually saving my money because that's what I need to do. And so instead, we use our excuses as a means to make poor choices. And those poor choices sometimes is overindulging, whether it's food, whether it's with our money, whether it's with, people we shouldn't be around, or maybe it's sex, or maybe it's, anything that distracts us from our responsibilities. We got to learn how to get rid of it. And then another reason why that people divorce their excuses, or people have excuses, is simply because they deflect. They're deflecting. It's a protection mode, or method rather. So instead of letting someone read into you, whether they care about you or not. So sometimes the truth is just hard to swallow. But oftentimes it's people who really care about us, who tell us about ourselves, and we want to go, oh, well, but you have a problem. You're the one who do this and you do that, and I don't say nothing when you do this. But the thing is, it's a problem and it needs to be said. And maybe you do need to tell that person about themselves too. So when someone's telling us about ourselves, again, it's a hard pill to swallow. And so we go into protection mode because maybe we've been hurt before, or maybe it's something about ourselves that we're not yet willing to accept. But those protection modes do serve as defensive mechanisms, which are good. Sometimes they're necessary. Sometimes you do need that something to kick in and go, whoa, 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 I'm being attacked. I need you to take 10 feet back. And sometimes excuses are those things that, keep us from really dealing with our shit. And unfortunately, we abuse that part of ourselves that wants to protect us, and it deflects. and it turns into an excuse. Well, I don't need to do this because of somebody else, or whatever the case may be. And really, it's just fear. It's just fear that we're operating under when we have excuses. And it's also laziness. And sometimes those two things play into each other, because when we are fearful, our bodies do kick into overdrive of protection mode. Like, I don't want to experience this negative thing that I'm experiencing. And so I'm going to shut down, and you become lazy, you become depressed. And then maybe you become anxious because you feel lazy and depressed. And then that sends you back through a cyclical path of being anxious and anxiety ridden, and just not in good shape. And then that leads you to make more poor choices, because now you're trying to remedy these negative things that you're feeling because of this anxiety and this depression, when really the only path is through. Sometimes you've got to get through the hardship, through the darkness, through the valley of darkness, quite literally in some cases, those dark times in yourself. And that can really feel dark, not just outside of yourself, because the world actually changes with our perspective. The way we perceive the world has everything to do with us, and things can quite literally seem darkened to us. If you've ever suffered from depression, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm one of those people. And so there's this really deep valley within ourselves that we've got to kind of drudge through and tread through in order to really deal with ourselves and figure out, why do I use this as a crutch? What's the point of that? Where did that come from? And better yet, how can I deal with it? And how can I either learn how to use it for good or completely get rid of it? And that's what it boils down to. But it starts with a choice. You don't just divorce your excuses and wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to be a whole new different person. I've learned every lesson I've ever needed to learn, and I'm going to move forward, and everything's going to be perfect. No, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that for most people. There's going to be a trial period where you try, and you fail, or you're doing well, and then you relapse back into making poor choices again, and maybe you feel like you're just you can't get out of square one, and that's okay, because we all go through it. But the thing though is, what happens when you relapse? What happens when you try and fail? Do you make more excuses for that? Or do you really stick to getting your shit together? And do you allow yourself the opportunity to keep trying, and to not make more excuses, and to put old thought patterns in the past? So currently, we're in the middle of a Mercury retrograde, and a Saturn retrograde, and a Pluto retrograde. Saturn and Pluto are all in Capricorn, which the moon is also. Happy full moon. And there's also a lunar eclipse today. Today is Tuesday, the 16th of July. So it's very busy astrologically. The planets are really pushing us to change some things in our lives. So one of the other things that the planets are doing is that Mercury retrograde is currently in Leo, and Mars is also in Leo. So there's a part of us that knows it's time for us to get it together. And there's a sense of maybe even confidence, something in us that we didn't feel before, at least more recently, that, this seems like maybe we can do this. Just feeling a little bit more certain about our ability to overcome. Maybe we've tried doing something in the past, like quit smoking and quit drinking, change your diet, work out more, find a job that really suits us. And that's the other thing, is that with the moon in Capricorn, and all these other planets in Capricorn, Saturn and Pluto, is really forcing us to work hard in order to achieve the life we say we really want to achieve. There is something about that Capricorn energy that just goes, it's time to really put in the work. Stop sitting on your ass and just expecting things to come to you. Life doesn't work that way. Now, when we align our energy properly, then the universe does align up with us, and we do start to attract things that we want, and we can get to a point where it feels effortless. But it doesn't mean that there's no work involved. That's the thing, is that there's always action that's necessary in order for us to get what we want, whether it is doing the work to change our thinking. And sometimes that's all it requires, because then when you change your thinking, inevitably your actions change. You can't change your thoughts and your actions don't line up with your thoughts. That's crazy. So when you change your actions, then you start to create a ripple effect of things outside of yourself, and you'll be surprised how much the outside world reflects your inner world. But that takes work, especially like I was saying before, if you're programmed to think one thing and to be negative and to believe that things have to be hard in order for you to be successful. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes that hard work, especially when you look at successful people, that hard work they're talking about is the interchange. It's the getting out of my head about things. It's the doing the work. It's the doing the research or whatever it is. And when it's really in the right direction, it's something that you enjoy in spite of the fact it being work. It starts to feel exciting for you, and you have a natural drive for whatever it is. And if you really have a desire to get to the top of whatever you're in, whatever your field is, or whatever your desires are, and just a matter of achieving it, then you get to a point where you go, okay, I know there's some things about myself that I need to change. I need to stop deflecting. I need to change these habits. I need to stop being negative every time something gets hard, and and use that momentum to push you forward and to take action for whatever it is that you want. Um, so we are also still in Cancer season as far as the sun, and so there's a lot of emotions that's going on with us too. So as we're in this retrograde and old things are coming up, whether exes are knocking on our doors, or old feelings about what your mom or your dad did or didn't do, or whatever the case may be for you. There's a lot of emotions about that, because we want things to be okay in our homes and in our family lives. The things that make us comfortable, we want to feel protected, that we want to feel safe, and anything that threatens that, we do feel an emotional, we need to attack emotionally, and where we need to have some sort of emotional upheaval about it. And I think it's funny because I've noticed so many people are so passionate about so many things, and from my perspective anyway, because I've done a lot of inner work in myself to not react so emotionally to things, because I used to be bad, y'all, let me tell you. And I'm an Aries, so I get it. And a Scorpio moon. Trust me, I get it. I get wanting to just lash out as soon as some negative thing happens or something that's uncomfortable happens, and just kind of wanting to be like, you know what, I'm going in. I'm telling you how I feel about it. I'm about to implement this change. I'm about to do this thing, and I don't care who I piss off on the way, because I feel like this is how it's supposed to be. Yeah, no, didn't get me very far. In fact, I rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And then I went through a period where I went complete opposite from that, and was just kind of like, okay, I'm not going to do anything. And then that didn't really bode well for me either. And then I found myself kind of teetering between the two. I just didn't know how to be in the middle. I was way too extreme. And so now that I've balanced myself out, I'm able to kind of step back and see that old self of me in other people and go, you don't have to react so emotionally to everything. That's the thing about working on your self mastery. I am not perfect by any means. I still have tons of work to do, just before anyone makes any assumptions that I think I'm up here and everyone else is down here. Not the case whatsoever. But one thing that I do wish more people would understand is that, stuff happens all the time. Life doesn't stop going round and round. And there's nothing new under the sun. And when you start realizing that these things keep happening because it wants us to learn how to have that self mastery, that self control, how to be kind to other people who maybe aren't quite as transcended as we are, as far as overcoming certain things. And when you start, loving those people and being patient with those people and forgiving people who act out because they don't have that self control, it changes things for you. You start seeing the world very differently, because you realize those people are you, and they're where you've been, and they're where you could possibly get back to. Because we know, a lot of people, even when we get up here, sometimes we fall off, we slip and slide, and we go, dang, I thought I already got through this. And next thing you know, here it is back again, or it's back again on a deeper level. And that's what Mercury retrograde is often about. It's not just about, how come I can't get this situation fixed? It's about, okay, there's something deeper here that I've yet to deal with. I dealt with it up here on the surface. That's done. Now it's time to deal with it down here. a little bit more deeper inside of me where it's left an imprint that I maybe didn't notice before because I was so busy reacting emotionally. Okay, so I think Cancer season and really any water sign season is a good time to be like, what are some things that I react so emotionally to that I lose control of myself, and then I get into these angry fights on social media, or I'm snapping at everybody, or whatever the case may be for you. You know, just start being mindful of yourself, and as you become more conscious of it, you start realizing, oh, that's why I make excuses. That's why I lash out. That's why I do that. It's starting to make sense to me now. Okay, now how can I fix it? And then you can develop your own plan for yourself on how you can change those things around. What are some things that make you feel better about you? What are some things that make you feel more positive? Are you feeding yourself positive things? Because believe it or not, the more you expose yourself to violence and to negativity, that is what you will produce, you know. And I say this as someone who is a fan of Real Housewives of Atlanta and RuPaul's Drag Race and all these shows where oftentimes there's always some conflict. There's always some back and forth with somebody, and this person judged me and looked at me wrong, and this is the next thing. And my life is pretty boring for the most part. I don't get into that much drama usually. So I kind of live vicariously through them. But even still, just because it's entertainment doesn't mean that I'm not feeding my soul with it to some level. And the more you expose yourself to that stuff, just start paying attention to how you react when you expose yourself to violent media, and violent music, or you know, if you're around people who are always fussy, just start noticing your energy, and then start saying, okay, so what is spirit, what is the world, what is the universe trying to tell me about myself right now? Because there's a reason why I'm in this place experiencing this thing as I am, and what can I change to make it better and more aligned with what it is that I know deep within myself I truly want, and then start making changes towards that in that direction. Okay, so I do hope that this video was helpful. I know I say that all the time, but I truly do. I do hope to see more comments from you guys. I love hearing, you know, when these videos are helpful for you, or if you've had an experience where you went, dang, this Mercury retrograde came, or this full moon came, or whatever, and I'm noticing that, yeah, I do this thing. Why do I do that? And how can I divorce the excuses that keep me holding on to this poor behavior? You know, I would love to hear your stories. And also, if you like the video, please like the video, and check out my other videos. And if you find you like those too, I would be happy if you would hit that subscribe button. I'm doing better to post videos more regularly and of more variety, as I'm still trying to figure out you know, how I want to format my channel and really what I want to gear it towards. But you know, for those of you who have already subscribed, I'm highly grateful for you, all 11 of you. I am so grateful for you guys, and I'm going to just keep pumping these out and hoping that you guys stick with me and that there is more to come. But anyway, until next time, I love you guys. Namaste.